Hey YouTube, it's Cello Ben, and today is the 101st day of the 100 days of practice. Wait, no, I finished that already. That's right. I'm here today for my first non-100 days of practice video. Sorry that it's been so long, but I'm really glad to be back. And today we're going to talk about, well, practicing. But instead of me just practicing on camera, we're going to talk about doing psychologically smart practice. First, let me start off with a disclaimer. I am not a psychologist, I do not have formal training regarding the human mind or mental health, and I cannot claim to understand how anyone else's mind works. I also recommend taking any of this advice only if you can apply it safely, without risking injury. I can, however, tell you what I have discovered about myself from my past experiences, and that's exactly what I will do today. My hope is that at least some of the tips I'll give you can be applicable to your practice as well. So let us begin. It's very important to have a space to practice that is conducive to good work. To that end, you want the space to be tidy, comfortable, and to have everything that you need. When my practice space is laid out best, I have an ergonomically good place to sit, and I don't have any extraneous clutter around me. A tidy workspace gives me the best chance for good concentration, and allows me to feel unrestricted in my movement. If you use a practice room at your school or performance hall or something like that, try to make sure that it's set up well too. Set up your chair and stand so that they're far away from any objects in the way, such as a piano, so that you can have the most possible freedom of movement. And if the previous user unscrupulously left a Starbucks cup on the piano, get rid of it. Again, you want your space free of clutter. By the way, true story, I once walked into a practice room to see that someone had left a porcelain bowl of ramen on the wonderful Steinway grand piano. And even worse, it was still there the next day. Don't be that person. Respect the space you're in. You don't want to have to interrupt your practice session because you need, say, some rosin on your bow or the music for another piece. So keep everything that you could need in your session close to you. I like to have a well-constructed music stand, my rosin, and all of the music that I need to work on ready to go on my iPad. And I have my Apple Pencil attached to its case. If you're not using a tablet with Fourscore or other hardware and software that has the same features, then here's the other stuff you want to have on your stand, or within arm's reach. A metronome, a tuner, and a pencil. The human mind can be a funny thing, and I admit that not having things at the ready has actually caused me not to work on them, or to do subpar work on them. I'll give you a couple of examples. I think that on many occasions, I've put off practicing a particular piece because I did not want to get out of my chair, walk across the room to my backpack, and take it out. Or I've neglected practicing with the metronome because I didn't want to click the little button in Fourscore and set the tempo and meter that I needed. It sounds pretty ridiculous, but it's true. So make sure that everything is ready. Set things up before you start, and if you're like me, you'll have a much better time. If you have a cell phone, ditch it. Watching TikTok, whatever that is, can wait. There are two exceptions allowed. Number one, sometimes you're waiting to hear about something very important. Good or bad, the anticipation can give you a lot of anxiety. Now, some people are able to turn that off for a practice session, but I concentrate much better if I have the ability to know when the news comes in. So set your phone on Do Not Disturb and set an alert from the one person or small group of people that you're waiting to hear from. That way, that's all that'll come in while you're working. The other exception is if you use your phone as a tuner and/or metronome. If that's the case and you're not waiting to hear news about something crucial, throw your phone in airplane mode and don't keep distracting apps open in the background. Nothing worse than double tapping the home button to switch between a tuner and a metronome and getting sucked in by Angry Birds waiting in your line of open apps. And the same rules apply if you're using a tablet. There's an old adage that says that the hardest part of practicing is getting your instrument out of the case. While keeping the motivation up is definitely something I've struggled with more, the former rings true as well. Sometimes you need that little kick to get started. Set practice times in your calendar and stick to them. Don't treat them like suggestions, treat them like appointments, at least to some extent. Just as you would do your best to be on time for a rehearsal, do the same thing for a practice session. It's in your calendar, so that's where you're going. I can't tell you the amount of time that I've wasted in the practice room because I was just trying to fill it up as opposed to actually accomplishing certain things. Especially when I was a teenager, I had a lot of motivation to practice and I wanted to be on a par with my peers who would tell me that they practiced 3, 4, 5 hours a day. So I told myself I had to do the same. I'd sit in the practice room for ages, but my time there was just long, not smart. Make detailed lists of what you need to do, and do them. Get things in solid shape and sounding beautiful. Crawl inside of the music and get to know it. Don't just sit there mindlessly repeating things to bleed the clock. It's not effective, and it will likely burn you out. In that same vein, let's go back to my high school years for one more story. There were so many weeks when I screwed myself over, and here's why. I'd set a plan, though usually vague, for the entire week. And it would be ambitious, say 5 hours per day, 6 days of the week. But then I would usually fall behind after a day or two. For example, I'd do 4 hours on Tuesday and then tell myself I'd make up that hour the next day. That makes 6 hours in a day. Really not healthy, and of course that wouldn't happen. Things would quickly snowball, and then I'd just shut down and give up on practicing for the rest of the week. Don't be like Teenage Ben. Instead, set goals for individual days. Try hard to meet them, of course, but if you don't one day, you can start over the next day, instead of just scrapping the rest of the week. There's probably a ton more that I'll be able to find if I really dig through my brain, but these things are what have really stood out to me. So I think they're a good starting place. I may make a second video on this topic in the future as more things come to mind, but for now please leave any ideas or questions in the comments below. And please hit that subscribe button. It'd mean a lot to me, and you'll get updated every time I post a new video. For now, I wish you the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.